knew, until that moment, that both the boys were going to do it. I mean, again, it sort of puts a tingle in my spine, and I just thought, my God, how brave.
For days, Prince William had refused outright to walk in the procession. But on the morning of the funeral, he agreed.
It took Prince Philip to persuade William to do it in the end. I mean, he put a grandfatherly arm around him and said, look, if I come to, will you do it?
Whose heart cannot go out to those boys today? Who can avoid a choke in the throat at the sight of them?
Prince Charles felt it was his duty to walk in the procession, but he knew that he remained deeply unpopular in the wake of Diana's death. Both he and the police were concerned about the public reaction when he appeared. Alert to any potential threat, the Metropolitan Police had placed plainclothes officers amongst the crowds, with marksmen watching from nearby rooftops.
When we got to St James's Palace, I remember somebody shouting out, "You didn't deserve her." And I remember being slightly worried then that whoever said that, are they walking towards him? I can't turn around. I have to look straight ahead and keep the horses moving in a straight line. So there was a sense then at the time, is something happening behind me? But I just kept going, really hoping that it was a one-off. And as we moved away, luckily there was no other similar comments.
Almost intolerable moment. The two boys, the two princes, as they take their place behind their mother's coffin.
Pretty daunting to be walking behind a gun carriage, their mother's on the gun carriage, and they are being watched by tens of thousands of people along the route and millions on television. And it was quite a tough experience for them, and they carried it off with such aplomb, it's unbelievable.
I was incredibly impressed. I mean, I lost my father when I was 12, so I was their age. So I remember what it felt like, and to be able to have done that in such a sort of what I thought was such a dignified fashion, I thought was sort of quite amazing.
The princes were joined behind the coffin by 533 workers from Diana's charities. As the Queen made her way to the Abbey, for the first time in history, the Union Jack was raised above Buckingham Palace before being lowered to half-mast. The will of the people had trumped centuries of tradition. Then Diana's family entered Westminster Abbey, and the congregation stood. They were followed 10 minutes later by the Queen and the Queen Mother. One hour and 47 minutes after leaving Kensington Palace, the cortege arrived precisely on time. Now, Diana's pallbearers had to undertake the most important job of their lives.
We've just done 4.5 miles. We're trying to wake our arms up. We knew what was going to happen now. We had to pick up the coffin. Emotionally, I think we blocked a lot of that out. I think we're here now. Let's get it done now and to the best.
The coffin lined with lead, so heavy that the eyes of the world are on these men.
We waited, and there was complete silence. And then we saw the coffin beginning to come in. And I think that was when it became real. And I just think of it now, and the roses on the back that had come from the children. It was unbearable. It was unbearable.
Slowly, deliberately, Diana's pallbearers walked her coffin down the long nave of Westminster Abbey.
You could feel with the studs that you were slipping all the time. Every step you take, you could go, and you had to concentrate on what you were doing, because it only takes a second, one lapse, and something serious could happen.
Out of respect, the television cameras didn't film the royal family or the Spencers. To make the funeral as inclusive as possible, the hymns had been printed in the day's newspapers.
People were actually able to sing along in the hymns, and we were able to really feel that everyone was involved, even though millions were not present in the Abbey.
Then Earl Spencer stood to deliver his sister's eulogy. The congregation and the millions watching outside had no idea what was to come.
Everything was fine until Earl Spencer stepped into the pulpit, and I thought that was going to be okay. I thought it was going to be just the same as we've heard before.
Diana was the very essence of compassion, of duty, of style, of beauty, a standard bearer for the rights of the truly downtrodden, and who proved in the last year that she needed no royal title to continue to generate her particular brand of magic.
It sounded to me like a speech where nobody had advised him, nobody had drafted it for him. It was not, the formal speech on the formal occasion. It came straight from his heart.
She talked endlessly of getting away from England, mainly because of the treatment that she received at the hands of the newspapers. She would want us today to pledge ourselves to protecting her beloved boys, William and Harry, from a similar fate. And I do this here, Diana, on your behalf. And beyond that, on behalf of your mother and sisters, I pledge that we, your blood family, will do all we can to continue the imaginative and loving way in which you are steering these two exceptional young men, so that their souls are not simply immersed by duty and tradition, but can sing openly as you planned.
He basically looked over, to a pew full of his in-laws and had a go at them from the box in the middle of a funeral of his sister. Well, questionable.
He was saying that they hadn't looked after her and they were inappropriate to bring up her children. It was very strong stuff.
I think the emotional impact of his speech was so great that we just sat and took it in. And then the sound came.
I didn't realize it was people clapping outside. It sounded like pebbles rattling on the roof of the Abbey. And it was coming closer and closer. It was quite put up the hairs on the back of your neck.
That wonderful sound like the sea, rolling in through the doors of the Abbey and then rolling up the aisles of the Abbey. And we all joined. I don't know who didn't, but we did.
But many people felt the eulogy was totally inappropriate.
I thought, no, don't applaud him. Look at the Queen. The Queen's horrified by what he's just said. Nobody addresses the Queen of England in that way. Nobody.
You would have been beheaded for that a couple of centuries before.
I was very angry that Diana's brother could stand up and say what he did say, because in attacking the royal family, he was attacking his nephews, William and Harry, and he talked about blood relative. Well, he's had nothing to do with their upbringing and they very rarely see him. So what was actually said on the day was sheer hypocrisy.
Was it strategically sensible? Possibly not. Did it make enemies for him? Probably. But for the general public, at Lance to Boyle, it made us feel, thank heavens, somebody is saying she should have been protected.
Diana's funeral had been a bittersweet farewell to the people's princess.
I was quite sure that she would have approved of the turnout and the solemnity and the beauty of this great ceremony.
In just 6 days, the royal establishment had pulled off an astonishing feat of planning.
It was completely brilliant because it was done so efficiently, so effectively, and so in such a dignified fashion that it reminded people why they like the royal family, because it's part of an establishment that does this at moments of crisis.
I felt really moved at the end when this huge chord suddenly was over. We could see the brilliant blue sky out of the west door,